It is Sunday, and you guys know what that means. It is another episode of Unturned Pages. I hope you all had a great 4th of July. It is time to sit down and learn more about lucid dreaming. How are you, Alicia?
I'm doing good. Doing good. How about you?
Good. Well, besides having sunburn, but I'm good.
Yeah.
You know, all that fun stuff. So let's go through our normal Sunday guest stuff. T-shirts. We still have some T-shirts on stock. They are 25 plus shipping. Pre-orders always open for long sleeves, hoodies, and zip-ups. Long sleeves are 35 plus shipping. Hoodies and zip-ups are 45 plus shipping. We still have some of our Unturned Pages bracelets with Maximalas. You can buy them via us or Maximala's website, which is maximalas.com, and it's under the Paranormal Collabs on her website. Thank you to our sponsors, Small Town Productions with Larry Eisler III, Creepy Crates. If you guys not looked at Creepy Crates, please do so. They make music boxes, they make Ouija boards, haunted dolls, creepy dolls, and all fun things. And soon you will be seeing some of my photography in their mystery boxes, which I'm super excited about. And then we have Reaper Paranormal out of Minnesota. And then, of course, Breaking Fate Entertainment, which we'll be diving into during our hour 2 of our podcast tonight. So make sure you stay tuned for hour 2 for Willie Atkins. He'll be on tonight. Skip through these. Next weekend, I will be at the 2025 Illinois Paranormal Conference in Rockford, Illinois. Richard Estep, Dave Schrader, Tobis Wayland, Larry Eisler, and some other great guests will be there. I will be doing art photography and selling merch. So make sure you come out and see us. I think it's $25 when you buy ahead of time or $30 at the door. So make sure you get your tickets for that. And then the following weekend, in 3 weeks, is Paranormal Lockdown. Can you imagine? Can you believe it? It's in less than 3 weeks.
No.
I can't believe it's in less than 3 weeks. Like, we've been talking about this since like last September.
We're still trying to put together a raffle basket for Leaflink, so we've been talking about that.
So you guys, if you are near Rockford, Illinois, Bradhead, Milwaukee, Madison, come to this great event on the 18th and 19th. So many great people will be there. Sam Patrices, Josh Purvis, Southern Heat, Dave Schrader. There's so many people who will be there. So make sure you come out and see us. There'll be vendors. There'll be food there. It'll be an amazing event. Music is on Friday night. Saturday during the day is the Paracon. And then Saturday night is the investigation with Alicia and Eternal Paranormal and a bunch of other amazing teams. So make sure you guys come out for that. And then the following weekend, I will be at this event, the Gettysburg Battlefield Bash, Christmas in July in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. It's $20 for all 3 days. It's an amazing event. Raises money for Wounded Warriors, PA, Heroes for Hire, and Dana's Pink Wishes. And then November 15th and 16th is Dark Arts and Oddities in DeKalb, Illinois. We will be diving much more into this event in the second hour of Unturned Pages tonight. And then we will bring our guest up. So our guest tonight is Nikki Wardwell Sleath. I hope I'm saying this correct. She is a 8 times great-granddaughter of Samuel Wardwell, one of the accused witches hanged in Salem trials. She's been practicing witchcraft for 30 years and received formal training through the priesthood of the Religious Order of Witchcraft. She has created her own occult order, the Society of Witchcraft and Old Magick. And then she holds a master's degree in integrative health, healing, as well as many holistic and shamanic certificates. She often offers private psychic, magical, and energetic healing services in addition to teaching her own occult training order. She is the author of several books on various magical topics with much forthcoming. So let's bring our guest in. Here we go. Hello, hello.
Hi, thanks so much for having me on tonight.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you on. So I just did a quick bio of you. Do you want to say any other things more about you for people who don't know who you are?
I think you really covered it. I consider myself an occultist first and foremost. And that's really, and I am a witch, you know, and a polytheistic practicing pagan and a dream teacher facilitator and shamanic and Reiki healer. But occultist is really, I guess, the best way to describe myself, just because it speaks to a person who continually studies and explores magic and the mysteries. And that's really what it's all about for me. Looking at all the various ways that energy and conscious awareness come together for us and in the world around us as well. So,
Jenny, ain't that crazy? I was just talking to you before the show, and remember I was telling you about how I just had I was thinking about the occult for some reason, and I didn't know why.
Yeah, now you know.
And, you know, a lot of so it has a bad rap a lot of times, that term, right. Because really of movies and TV shows. But occult just means hidden or mystery, you know. So anyone who, you know, to say that you are an occultist just means that you're a student of the mysteries of the universe, which, I mean, even if you don't identify with the term, I mean, you guys are, you know, as paranormal investigators, you're studying the mysteries. Right. You're studying that which goes beyond what we can see. So I just like it as a title, because nowadays, I used to always say I was a witch, which I am, but now that term has really kind of exploded to mean so many different things that people don't necessarily know what you mean when you say that. So, you know,
people really don't understand
it. Yeah, totally.
So how did you get into the witchcraft, the pagan community? Like, were your family members doing this as a child, or were you like, how did you really get into this?
Well, yeah, no, I did. My family was quite conventional. I've always been kind of intuitive, a lot of vivid dreams, ESP experiences, deja vu, and finally, when I was in my last couple of years of college, I really started noticing the psychic patterns like that in the year. Like, I noticed that I would get much more psychically clear every fall, like it would really ramp up. So I started researching why that could possibly be. And I started to come across some information on the modern day practice of witchcraft and what that was about. And it was like, you know, sort of being like a revelation, like, oh my God, this is what I've always thought anyway. And here it is in a formal practice that you can engage in and study and deepen. And I knew, you know, from that point that would be my both spiritual and intellectual path. And I'm 52 now, so it's been like 3 decades engaging the craft. I started off just studying on my own, like most people do, and then got formally trained, as you mentioned from the bio, in the Religious Order of Witchcraft, which is an old New Orleans coven, and then moved on from there to form my own private occult training order in the tradition of American Witchcraft. So I spend most of my time writing and teaching, and of course, practicing magic. And dreams are my passion, and the thing that for me is the center of my spiritual practice. It is the most important part of my spiritual practice. I mean, we spend, you know, a third of our lives asleep, and we are always dreaming every time that we're sleeping, every single person. Now, a lot of people don't remember them, but there are ways that you can get that back. I actually do talk about that in the book. So my most recent book, Dream Sorcery, The Ritual and Magic of Lucid Dreaming, does focus on lucid dreaming as a magical practice and as a means of really enhancing your sorcery skills. Now, the premises of the book, though, do not only have to be applied to lucid dreaming, they can actually be applied to a lot of the magic of spontaneous night dreams as well. But basically, I've written this book from an alchemical standpoint, you know, to sort of take the premises of alchemy or, you know, transmutation of things from one level to a higher vibration, and to frame the practice of lucid dreaming that way, so that people could start to develop a practice of doing that for themselves. So basically, the book starts with foundational stuff for magical practitioners, like what do you need to know about lucid dreaming? How can you predispose yourself? Like, it has loads of exercises and techniques to help you start to understand like the basic practices that you should have in place in order to be cultivating episodes of lucid dreaming. And then the book, after all of those foundations are laid, it goes into, here's a whole bunch of creative ideas of magic and sorcery experiments that you can do while you are dreaming, while you're in those lucid dream states, and how they actually sort of rewire you and make you better and better at magic. So these dream experiences that you can have, there's nothing like it that you could possibly mimic in waking. And this is, to me, why it's so, so important. And I'll get back to that. But then the last part of the book is really about the magic that you can do while you're awake, you know, at your altar or as a practicing witch, to help to cultivate those lucid experiences. Like, you can do spells to help you attain an exciting lucid dream, for example. And then it becomes like a virtuous cycle. And what is lucid dreaming? It's when you are it's when you're in a dream and you all of a sudden realize, without any shred of a doubt, that you are in a dream. Not only that, but you remember who you are, where your body is in ordinary reality, and everything about your life. So if you had an idea of magic that you would like to execute in a dream, you would then remember that. And also, if there was anything going on in the dream that was fearful or stressful, you don't have fear anymore, because you understand that you're functioning in a dream body. So when you're dreaming lucidly, it feels like, and you guys will appreciate this, I think, based on what I perceive your passions to be, but it feels like you're functioning as a spirit. So you get to feel like you're walking around with every supernatural capability that an energy body alone could have. You can fly, you can shoot fire, you can shapeshift, you can do ceremonial magic. You can, do energy projections. You can do healing work that actually has a tangible effect in the moment. Everything is very crisp and much more real feeling, actually, than when you're awake in your physical body. When I started to realize this, I was like blown away. And I knew that I would constantly try to cultivate lucid dreaming as often as I could for the rest of my life, because it is a way to deepen spiritual experience, psychic experience, in a way that can't be done in waking, because of the limitations of this and the physics, of this dense physical reality that we live in. So have either of you guys ever had a lucid dream?
So is lucid dreaming different than like the dreams that you have, that you feel like you're seeing into the future and then it happens days or that day later? Like, is that different type of dreaming?
Yes.
That's my question.
Yeah.
I have a bunch of those. I have a bunch of those type of dreams. Like, I can see, like, what's going to happen, especially when they're, like, leading up to a paranormal investigation. Like, this last one, like, I had a spirit come through, gave me his name, his, why he went to jail, how long he was in jail for, where he was imprisoned at, and then it all came about when I asked the location paranormal person, like, was he an inmate? Was this his charge? Was this how long he was in? Da 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 da, and it was all correct. Like, it came, like, he came through, told me all of this, and then it was all validated. But I've also had dreams that I see something happening, and then, like, that day or within a couple of days, it happens.
Yes, so I do talk about these types of phenomena in the book as well. I do list out all the various types of dreams that are categories that I've perceived through all of my decades of dream journaling and looking back at the various types. Those are what I would call precognitive dreams. So you're having a precognition, but you're not necessarily lucid unless you know you are. So anytime you have to wonder if it was a lucid dream, it generally wasn't, because it's like unmistakable. I call it the rain stick effect. So when you're going along in your normal dream material that's random, or it looks like that to us a lot of times when we wake up and remember what we were dreaming, like, weird, huh? Right. But when you're going along in your dream, if you become lucid, there's often this like of energy that like whooshes down through you, kind of like, I call it that, like when you flip over a rain stick, you know, and all the beads go down. You get that like through your energy body, and then all of a sudden it's like bing, everything is way crisper, and you realize everything about your waking life. So when you're lucid, it's almost like, I call it like having a bicameral mind, because you're still in your dream body, which can't be harmed. That's why it feels like functioning like a spirit, and it can move around and walk through walls and do whatever you want it to do. So you're still in there and aware of that, but you're also aware at the same time that your physical body is in your bed, and you know everything about your life. Like, you would know, oh, this isn't the house that I live in, I'm in a dream, and you know, and then you can decide what you want to do in that place. So, but it's really cool though that you have precognitive dreams, and you should definitely, I hope you journal, because if you have a log. Sometimes you can have a precognitive dream long before the associated circumstances play out in physical reality. And if you didn't write them down, a lot of times they'll fade later, you know, like the memories of them will be less. And you might want to look back and show proof to someone, like, look at the date on this journal entry. You know, I wrote this last month, and now look what has come to pass. And why I say this is important is because when we dream, so our conscious awareness sort of softens its attachment to the physical body and is able to move around in time. When you're having precognitive dreams, your awareness is going forward in time, maybe to prepare you for stuff that's upcoming, so that you will be able to do your best, you know, when it's happening in physical reality. So that's very important. Accepting the personal truth for yourself that our conscious awareness is not only localized to the body is an extremely valuable thing to try to accept. A lot of people don't think that. And one of the reasons I wrote this book is because a lot of the lucid dreaming books that are out there are written from a more Western psychological point of view, where the attitude is that everything that we dream is just a product of our own mind only. And, you know, sort of a mishmash of the emotional stuff from our day or our life and how we're working that out, and that it's all symbolic. And I think there are symbolic dreams that are possible. And that's one of the dream types I do mention. But I think that we need to accept that our conscious awareness is not local to the body. And actually precognitive dreams can prove this. And I've had many of the types of experiences that you're describing, Jenny, where, you know, you wake up and you get all this information, and then lo and behold, it ends up happening, you know, in your day-to-day life. And you're like, wow, I completely dreamed this ahead of time. How did I have that? I went ahead and scoped things out without my body, like in dream realities.
Is that kind of like, is those kind of dreams like more tied to like psychic abilities? Like it's your psychic intuition pre-warning you of something that's going to happen? Would that be more like of a psychic ability than more of like something else?
I mean, we could say that, although I do believe that a certain percentage of everyone's dreams are precognitive if they were able to like recall them upon waking and jot them down. And because again, sometimes you might have the precognitive dream long before. And, you know, one teacher that I had once said, sometimes remembering dreams is like trying to nail Jell-O to a wall. So you like that
I love that one.
Right, because sometimes it's like, oh,
right?
You know, yes. I think I was just dreaming something, but what was it? And so if a dream happens a long time before and you have it written down, you might just have that sort of vague feeling of deja vu when the thing happens then in physical life, but you might not have the proof to go back and go, oh, look, yeah, I dreamed of this exact scene. There it is. So I believe that dreams are transtemporal. That's, you know, meaning we can go outside of time and visit other times that the body isn't currently experiencing. I also think they're transpersonal, meaning that a lot of the spirit experiences that we can have in dreams are real. And so many people have personal proofs of this, where they've had dreams of their beloved dead returning to them and telling them things that they couldn't know. Right. So is it psychic skill? Yes and no, because I think we all have access to this potential psychic well, but it can take some skill to cultivate really great dream recall practices, dream journaling practices, and then ultimately, if you keep that ball rolling, a lucid dreaming practice. But oh my gosh, you guys are spirit workers. The amount of things that you can do with spirits alone in lucid dreaming is astounding. I have summoned so many different kinds of spirits because it's so much easier there. In physical reality, spirit summoning is actually considered to be very, very difficult in ceremonial magic. It's considered that the magician needs to have a lot of years of training and practice, and humility, like raising one's vibration to a very high degree in order for an actual evocation ritual to have a chance of occurring. But in lucid dreams, we are not bound by the density of these physics, like I said before. So you can summon a spirit, and it is much easier for them to materialize in whatever way they would like to show up. So you can summon spirits of the dead. You can summon angels, archangels, deities. You can summon plant spirits. You can, like if you're someone who's into, herbology and things like that, I have summoned the spirit of the plant mugwort, for example. Because mugwort is a plant that's very popularly associated with dreaming. So you can do all kinds of stuff. I have even summoned negative spirits on purpose at the request of some of the deities that I'm kind of devoted to, like the Morrigan and Hecate and Odin. I have summoned negative spirits for them and tried to help disperse their connection to this reality because they were like plaguing someone or vampirizing someone. And you can do spirit work like that very directly from lucid dreaming without risk to your physical body. I mean, like there's so much. And for anyone that's interested in magic, in lucid dreaming, I have practiced the lesser banishing ritual, the pentagram, and I have signed and chanted and intoned all of the runes and the ancient Irish poem alphabetic letters to see what they do when unimpeded by these physics. Are you more vulnerable to? No, your physical body isn't vulnerable to spirit at all while you're lucid dreaming, because you're interacting with it in a dream reality, not in this physical reality. So it is actually a very safe place to do all kinds of magical experiments and spirit summoning experiments and things like that. It's actually considered a bit dangerous to do spirit summoning experiments here, in the sense that if you succeed, obviously if it's a low or negative spirit, that if you don't know what you're doing, and you don't have like proper containment of it, that it could take from your energy field or leave you, feeling weakened. But it's also considered dangerous to summon even well-intentioned higher vibrational spirits like angels and deities, wholly, like a full evocation, because it's considered that energy is so intense that it can kind of like addle your brain and leave you a little off.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Heather said, I've had what I thought was a visitation dream, but knew everything about the home and all the details of that little girl spirit before she even entered. And then she just asked, do you think that was a lucid dreaming of what I experienced, or was it that precognitive dream?
That one is what I would call, I have a whole category that I just refer to as dreams of the deceased, and where a spirit of a deceased person is truly interacting with you. So you absolutely do not need to be lucid to have a spontaneous dream like that. And so if you have to ask if it was lucid, it generally was not, because even without knowing what lucid dreaming is, when you have one, you instantly know you had a lucid dream. Like it is very starkly obvious. So in that case, that's a dream of the deceased, though. And what was probably happening was you were in a dream reality that you understood and had some background info or related to in some way. You have some connection to that reality or some knowledge of it on another plane or in another channeled path of reality, so that you knew who that girl was in the dream and maybe why you were talking to her, or why you were in her house. And then when you woke up, you've got that, you recalled that. So that's really, really cool. I would make sure to journal that information, even now, if it's way after the fact, like if you didn't notate it, write down whatever you remember, because it may become important. What if someday you find yourself in that physical location? Then it's a precognitive dream too.
Right.
But yeah, I felt like I had been there before. That is because we can actually sometimes visit the same dream realities numerous times recurring through our lives. I definitely have a lot of dreams where I notate down, I'm in a house that's familiar in the dream from other dreams, but is not familiar to me from ordinary reality.
Right.
And so it kind of reiterates to me, oh yeah, a lot of times we're traveling around and going into some of the same repeat places because maybe our spirit has a connection to them. I think one of the richest things is that lucid dreaming reminds us that we are spirits too. That, we have to remember that about ourselves. We're a spiritual being having a physical experience. And, the spirits that you guys investigate once we're having a physical experience and may not be now. They may be, or they may not be. Because I'm sure, as you know, there's all kinds of hauntings, and I've, done plenty of paranormal stuff myself. So the haunting does not necessarily have to mean that a full-on energy body intelligence of a person is still there. It can sometimes be an imprint or whatever.
Yep.
You probably
Stone
have
tape
loads
theory.
of talk about this kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, a person could leave behind that imprint and have possibly been already reincarnated into another existence, physical or not. But there's so many potentialities. So right now, if you were by some odd chance to spontaneously have a lucid dream tonight, what would you want to do in your lucid dream first? What would be your highest priority lucid dream plan? I always ask people this, you know why? Because even spending time talking about it slightly raises the chances that you might have one. So if you have one tonight, what would you want to do?
I want to fly to Florida on a broom. I want to be on a witch's broom. I want to fly to Florida, and I want to go to the ocean and just spend time on the beach and get my peace and enjoy it and soak up the sun if I could. Yeah, and I also kind of want to spit fire from my hands because that's really cool too.
It is really cool to do that. You can do that just by going like this. Well, winning the lottery. Okay. So winning the lottery in the lucid dream isn't going to win you the lottery in this dream. Yeah, this is our waking dream.
So mine would be like going to the UK, like investigating the UK. That would be mine. Like going to investigate places that are older than this country. Like,
yeah, so you would want to
go to that other continent. Like you get history older than us. Like yeah.
Right. So if you get lucid, so first for Alicia, like what you do is you actually state your plan aloud to the dream. So yours is kind of a multi-part thing. In order to try to maximize time and take advantage of the situation, if your goal were mine, I would first say, I need a broom to fly on. And then a broom will manifest because this is a thought responsive environment. Okay. And then you can get on the broom and then say, I fly to the ocean. Don't even worry about whether it's Florida. Just say, I fly to a tropical beach or something like that, a warm beach. It doesn't have to be that location exactly, because remember, you're in a dream. So the landscape that you're in that dream may not have the states the way that we have them here. The geography is not necessarily the same. So I would just say, I fly on my broom to a tropical beach, if that's the experience I want to have, you know, getting that ocean immersion. And then you'd be able to enjoy that until you woke up. And yeah, and for Jenny, you know, I would pick one thing, like I would make, like, let's say
I would go to Leap Castle.
Okay, right. So I would just say, take me to Leaf Castle in England, you know, or wherever, and then you'll see the scene change, and you'll be in a dream reality version. So you're not going to be physically in England. Your body is in the bed sleeping, you know. Right. So, but you'll be going there in a dream reality. So that's why winning the lottery for your guest here doesn't. That can be a tough because you'd get to experience possibly the feeling of winning the lottery, but then you'd wake up not having won the lottery. Right.
So what I'm kind of getting is, and it makes sense that you put it that way about stating it out loud, you know, because thinking about it, you know, when I've watched a movie before I go to bed, then all of a sudden parts or whatever that was in that movie, I'm dreaming about it because, you know, I was hearing it before I went to bed.
Right. So, and I see Derek saying that too, that some people say sometimes the things that are on your mind before you sleep can influence what you end up dreaming about. And that is true. It can. It doesn't always, but our minds work really, really quickly. I mean, we know this, right? We know what the sort of monkey mind is like when you try to meditate. It's hard because you have to keep refocusing over and over and over again. So any thought that creeps in, you know, to your attempt to focus can divert the dream path that you end up going down. But yes, so if you're falling asleep, thinking about having just been watching The Walking Dead, then you very well might find yourself in a zombie apocalypse dream. I've had that happen numerous times.
Right.
So yes, but all dreams are pretty thought responsive, not just lucid dreams.
I had a couple questions because
absolutely.
I had all these questions in my head just listening to you talk. One of them is the first question that I was thinking of was, why do some people continue lucid dreaming? Say I started, well, not lucid dreaming, but having, I would say lucid dreams maybe, but then also premonitions. Like, why does it keep happening, but it doesn't happen all the time?
Well, I mean, because there are potentially an infinite number of different dream realities that we could be exploring on any given night. So think about sort of the multiverse mindset. We're not localized just to dreaming about stuff that's going to happen to us. We can sometimes, if while we're sleeping, we choose to venture down that path, and we may not really be doing it purposefully. Right. Again, it may be just that the paths we go down are responsive to the types of things that we're thinking about at that moment when the dream scene forms. So I just believe that there are an infinite number of realities that spring off of every single moment. But this is the one that we ended up being in right now. But that when we dream, we can explore all these other potential ways things could have gone, as well as all of these other realities that are not even like this one. That's why you can be in dreams where there are, supernatural things happening that can't happen here. Like furniture flying through the air or animals that don't exist in nature for us, because we can also go into dream realities that have other things that for us seem fantastical, but everything exists on some level in a mental plane. And I believe these are the kinds of realities that we are exploring when we dream. Now, so some of the time when you follow the path of this present reality further forward after you fall asleep, you end up seeing what's going to happen. And that's where you guys are having your precognitions and things like that. So, that, and sometimes you can have a precognition and most of it happens, but maybe not every single thing exactly the same. Or sometimes you can have a metaphorically precognitive dream where something happens that's very much alike to what happened in the dream, but a lot of the details are different. But there are these striking parallels. Like I talk about a scenario like that in the book to show what a metaphorically precognitive dream looks like, where I had a dream where I was saving my mom from getting hurt, basically. And then that day in waking reality in my job, I ended up saving a nursing home patient at the place I was working at the time from getting hurt in the exact same kind of potential accident and all the same body actions and everything. It was almost like the dream with my mom and with the circumstances being a little more dramatic was getting me emotionally invested, because it was her. So that then when I was in the presence of this woman who was a patient who was going to need help to not faceplant on the cement and fall off this curb and have it could have killed her, so that I would be ready right then in that moment. And I was, and, thank goodness.
That's amazing.
Right.
Yeah. So like, there's so many kinds of precognitions that can happen, and you don't have to be lucid for those to happen. You just have to be jotting them down when you wake up.
So what about, I wanted to go back. My other question that I had was about like coming back to the same dream. So I had one of those and it happened a few times, but each dream, and it felt like familiar to me also, but it felt like maybe it could have been a past life or something, or maybe even reincarnation that I was seeing but it felt like me, but it just kept getting more layered each time about this farmhouse, and it was beautiful white farmhouse, and then there was these two big barns right next to it, and I rescued animals, cats and dogs and stuff, and those were in the two barns. And then eventually, I see one of the dogs, and it has one of those wheelchairs. It's a wiener dog, and it was like one of the longer haired ones, and it had puppies and stuff, and there was a little desk office for me. But yeah, I just kept getting more detailed and detailed. So my question is about dreaming about like past lives or reincarnation dreams.
Yeah, you absolutely can. I've dreamt of past lives numerous times. And so how you might be able to tell that if you're having it, like it's hard to know now looking back on it. But if you wake up from a dream like that and you know that you looked different than you do now, then it could very well be, another life or a future life. Or it could be a different version of reality that did not play out in this reality, or it could be something that still might happen for you. There's no reason why. I mean, you look kind of young. You could still do that.
I was just thinking about that because when you said, could you see yourself? No, I couldn't see myself, but I was in a body. I just couldn't see myself, if that makes sense.
Right. So you could have possibly looked similar to how you look in this reality then.
Okay.
Right.
If you don't know, right? If you don't know that your body was different, then it could be the same or not. But so there's a lot of possibilities there. As a shamanically trained teacher of active dreaming, one of the things that I would recommend doing with a dream like that would be to do an awake journey back into that dream scene, but pause and ask questions of it. And I know that can be complicated if you've never done it, but that's why people like me facilitate this for people and teach them how to do these types of things. Dream reentry is not as hard as it sounds. You're awake and you don't need to actually be experiencing the dream spontaneously. You reimagine being in the dream and you walk through it again to the best of your ability. And then you pause and say, who am I? What reality is this? You can ask the house. You can ask the intelligence of the animals that you were there, rescuing and saving in the dream, and ask them, does this reality, overlap with my physical reality at all? Or was this a past life that I lived? And you try to learn to accept the truths that come through to you from your exploration of the awake journey reentry of the dream. And there's so much that you can do with that. And it helps to kind of bring the juice of the dream, more fully into this reality so that you own those vibes, because that is an experience you've had consciously. Yeah, totally. That's the cool thing about dreams is our awareness is experiencing them just as though we were there. Yeah, meditation. I talk about meditation a lot in the book and give some techniques of meditations that are good to help people predisposed to lucid dreams and dream recall. Meditation is key. I do meditate every morning, and meditation helps you to stay in shape for being more fully in control of where you put your mental focus. And this is key because you need to have good mental focus to have good dream recall. And you need to have even better mental focus to try to be purposefully cultivating lucid dreams. So meditation is an amazing, amazing and crucial practice for would-be lucid dreamers. The book helps you right from the beginning to just kind of start from square one. Like I have you near the beginning of it, bless your dream journal. And I've got a little ritual there for you to do. That's very simple so that this becomes a magical place of documenting your exploits in other realities, right? And then it goes on to help you like formulate a meditation practice, learn how to get good at dream intention setting, learn how to understand the things that will predispose you to lucid dreaming. And I think everyone should try, because even if you never get a lucid dream, all of the things that you do to try to get lucid dreams benefit you in so many other ways anyway. So it's like this win-win situation.
I definitely think we'll have to get you back on for part 2, because we, like, me and Alicia have questions written down before this podcast, and we haven't hit half of them.
I know.
And, yeah,
I still have questions.
Of course. And I could come back sometime and we could, talk about specific dreams of you guys and your guests and, work them a little bit. That could be a whole, separate show.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure. But I could come back and speak about all different kinds of things. Like I can speak about like magic that can be done, when you're doing house cleansings, and how people deal with hag attacks. Like, so speaking of dreams, like when a negative spirit, makes you feels like it's pressing down on your body, and how that relates to lucid dreams and sleep paralysis. And
there's so many sleep paralysis. Like, how does that work with dreams? Like, you can't move, you can't do anything, but you feel like you're in a dream and you're seeing things happen. Is that the same? Like,
yeah. So sleep paralysis is is that scary experience that people often have where they're beginning to wake up mentally. So you start to become lucid and aware of yourself, but your body is still in sleep paralysis mode. So you can't move. And sometimes it can be a real spirit interaction, but sometimes it's just the scary feeling of the sleep paralysis. But that actually can be an opportunity to say to yourself, oh, right, I'm dreaming, and choose not to try to wake up and wriggle out of it, but stay in it and then execute the lucid dream plan of your choice. Sleep paralysis can be very, very scary. Yeah. I see Derek saying that. There is a nice book on it by Ryan Hurd, a fellow lucid dream colleague of mine, and one of the people who wrote actually a endorsement for dream sorcery. He has a book called Sleep Paralysis. It's a short, nicely, you can get through it nicely for people that struggle with that.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned throughout the show about a dream notebook. Is it easier for people to use like their cell phones, because you can just download like the voice recording thing on your phone and record when you wake up to what your dream was? Or is it better to have the notebook? Like,
this is an excellent question.
Like, if I wake up, I'm not going back to bed. Like, that's
so there's a hierarchy here, and here's what it is. Writing by hand is the best. So if you're really serious about this, you would want to develop a practice of journaling in the morning. Recording dreams in your voice notes on your phone is better than not recording at all, but not quite as good. There's something about the way that you become very present when you have to put pen to paper, that hand-eye coordination slows down the retelling of the story in your brain a little bit and almost puts you back there. What I find is a lot of times when I wake up, I'll remember just like a scene from numerous dreams of the night. And I think when I start writing that I'm not going to have a lot. But then once I start writing, I'm like, oh yeah. And there was a guy doing this, and I knew that this was his motivation. And then we went here, and then I realized that more comes flooding back because I'm mindfully writing. So, if sleep is problematic, you can just wait and write down anything you have in the morning. So if you're worried about waking up in the middle of the night remembering a dream, you can just try to journal the ones that you wake up with in the morning. Journaling with paper is the best.
So I have a weird question. Like I know you do Reiki. I know you do the shamanic stuff. I'm a Reiki master too. People often ask me, do like dreaming and sleep affect the chakras? I feel like they do. Like if you're not getting enough sleep or whatnot, your chakras can be affected because you're not getting sleep.
Absolutely.
Can dreams affect the chakras as well?
Yes, they can in some ways. It's indirect, though. It's not direct. So like things that are happening to you in your dream are not happening directly to you. But sometimes when you have certain types of lucid dreams, like where a deity, like a goddess, for example, gives you an energy infusion, sometimes you can still feel the reverberations of that here. And that does affect your energy body. I do want to say, though, like with respect to the idea of the chakras, I think it's important for people to know that that is not a universally fundamental system. So we have energy, and the chakras, everyone tends to know about them because they've become popular. But that's just the way that the energy body was looked at through the lens of Hindu magic. Because I practice Western occultism, I look more at a 5-element system of body centers, and also the 3 cauldrons, like in the ancient Irish worldview.
We definitely need a part 2 because that would be interesting, because I do aura and chakra sessions. So I have a machine that does aura photos and includes the chakras and personality information stuff. But learning the more of that aspect of things, the 5 energy parts and the cauldrons, would be definitely something cool to add into the sessions as well.
Yeah, I could absolutely talk about that stuff. I mean, and I have more books coming down the line, and some of that material will be in them.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have to definitely get part 2. Like this, we haven't even hit a half of our questions. Like me and Alicia were talking before, we're like just dotting down that questions to ask.
Because lucid dreaming, especially from the magical perspective, is such an in-depth topic that, it really can, there are so many rabbit holes and so many interesting avenues to it, that now that we've like talked about the general concepts behind it, we could there could be a whole hour of Q&A just trying to cover everybody's questions.
And I would
Derek. Derek, I like this idea, but that would get it to a weird position though, because you would have to be lucid dreaming and I would have to be where you're sleeping. That's just a little weird, but we could do that like on the paranormal investigation type of thing.
So what's interesting, that is possible, but you need a sleep lab probably, and you need to have a system whereby, and this has been done in scientific labs, by the way, whereby when the person who's asleep, not the aura photo, but in the lab, when the person who's sleeping becomes lucid, they can use their eyes in a certain way in the dream that will give a signal with the eyeballs being monitored by the scientists in the lab, so that they know, okay, she's lucid dreaming right now. And then you could do the auric photography. If the person already had their hands like on the plates or whatever, like that, you could do it then and there. So it is possible. Not easy, but possible. I wonder.
That would be really cool to do. But where can people get your book? We'll definitely have to book you for a second hour the other day, because so much more to talk about. But people want to know where to buy your book. I know it's through Llewellyn, but where can they buy it?
They can get it at llewellyn.com or Amazon. And then my website, just my name that's there on the screen, nikkywardwellsleath.com, is my author site, and has links to, my social media and stuff, because that's where, I'm talking at a lot of conferences and stuff. If you go on YouTube and search my name in there too, you'll see a lot of free talks and things that you can watch. That I recently spoke at Llewellyn Con. That's out there free on YouTube. I talked actually specifically about spirit summoning and lucid dreams for that talk. And there's all kinds of other stuff out there. So,
well, if you ever come out to Minnesota to Llewellyn's office, let me know because I'm only 10 minutes away.
Oh, wow.
That's a hop in the from me.
Well, I proposed a class for their Paganicon next year, which is
March.
happens there. And so if they accept my submission, then I will be in the area this next winter. It's so funny. My daughter right now is doing an internship at Itasca, not an internship. She's working in Minnesota, and I drove her out there earlier this summer. She's 21, but so we road tripped out and then I flew home. But yeah, she's leading some biological field work for the University of Connecticut, but out in Itasca State Park, not far from Bemidji.
Yeah, it's not
That's
that far.
cool.
It's about a 3-hour drive for me, I think.
Yeah.
Take, but if you're at Paganicon, if you get to come to Paganicon, I will figure a way to get out there. Typically, it's always held on my daughter's birthday weekend. So it's always thing in my head, like, do I go? And we're usually vendors, but last year they are very picky on vendors, so not every year you get to be a vendor there.
Right.
But it's always held on my daughter's birthday because she is a Paganicon baby. She was born on March 22nd. Like, the year she was born, she was the weekend after Paganicon. Like, I should have probably been in the hospital having her that weekend of Paganicon, but in my head, I was only 29 weeks. So I'm like, okay, it's just Braxton Hicks. It's just being overly tired. Sooner or later, not even 4 days later, I had the baby. I'm like, Paganicon baby. So it's always on her birthday.
Oh, that's too funny.
A fight in my head. It's always a fight in my head. Like, do I go?
Right.
Or do I spend time with my daughter whose birthday is always on Paganicon? So it's like, she's very witchy. She's very empathic. She's very psychic. So she likes going to see and hanging out with, like, she calls them the witchy people. I'm like, okay, we could go hang out. And then she goes to school. She's like, I hang out with the witchy people. I'm like,
yes, which is great for kids.
Love it.
It's great for kids because they're some of the most open-minded people.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, it's funny when she goes to school and she's like, I hunt ghosts with mommy, and her teachers always look at me like, what?
Oh yeah, believe me, I've been there. I was like kids would ask my kids weird questions and stuff. And my kids just kind of learned how to handle it and be like, yeah, whatever. Like,
whatever.
That's my life.
It's becoming more of an open topic now in I think the world, like, it's becoming more open topics. So it's not as like hush hush. Like, as I was in high school, I lost a bunch of friends because I was in the paranormal. But now it's more open based because you have all these paranormal TV shows, you have all these YouTubers, you have all the TikTokers, you have the witch TikTokers, you have the witches on YouTube doing stuff. It's being more open to everyone. Yes,
absolutely.
But we will definitely have to get you on for part 2 because we have so many more questions.
I'm always down for more magical inspiration and talking about the ins and outs of all of this stuff. It's what I love to do, and I've been doing it for decades. And so be happy to.
Yeah, because I know you were with Dave Schrader in March on his show, and he's a good friend of ours. So like, she was on for 2 hours. I'm like, I have a feeling we're gonna need a second hour before this even started.
I must have missed that one.
Yeah, and I'm actually supposed to touch base with him to do a second one because he said the same thing. Like, oh my God, we could have gone so much deeper. I feel like we barely cracked the surface, and it's true. Surface, yeah.
Which totally reminds me, everyone, please send prayers, good juju to Dave because his father just passed on 4th of July. So he is dealing with the passing of his dad. So please send good thoughts, prayers, everything to him because he's dealing with all of that. end of life stuff for his dad because his mom passed several years ago. So he's dealing with all of that stuff again with losing a parent. So,
and he's always there for everybody else, and shouting out people and doing prayer requests. So definitely he deserves, all the love coming back to him right now.
Mm-hmm. But we will get you back on for part 2 very soon. I will reach out this week to get dates. But yeah, thank you so much. We've learned so much. I think
thank you guys.
Kat has learned as much as we did today too.
Thank you.
Yeah, you guys are so fun. Thanks. Have a great night.
You too.
Have a great night.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
So you guys, we are gonna pause here. We're gonna end this one, and then we're gonna hop over to a new live with our second guest, Willie Atkins. So just look out for that new Facebook Live to start in any minute. Probably give us like 5 minutes, and we'll get it started for all of us. So tune in about 5 minutes. We'll be back. And